Okay, so where was I? Uh, Something about, what was it? Oh yeah, well, characters, and they're trying to put him in this position of, like, the underdog, and, oh, blah blah, fighting for rights. And using the same sort of, language that evokes sort of, like, the civil rights, or, like, the current, activism for queer rights. Is usually what it is, because because of course, racism is over. That's a joke, by the way. Um, and so, they're trying to use that sort of language, that sort of feeling, but the main difference is that, these superpowered individuals, where they are, or groups actually, even, whether they're, vampires or mutants, like, they're they're not powerless to the same degree. Like, not only are they made of creatures, but they're not powerless. I mean, in True Blood, the vampires, with they're super fast, super strong, and they feed off of people without their consent. They can manipulate their minds. Um, not only that, but they have actual, structures of powers. You have the kings and queens of the states, and the sheriffs of this district and that district and the other one. They've been around for hundreds upon hundreds of years, some of these vampires. And we're supposed to think of them as, and they're trying to at least put forth that sort of narrative. And of course they're dialing back from it, I hope. But then it doesn't change the fact that, and then, oh wow, I'm like all over the place, but I really don't care. Then you have with, like, the X-Men, how originally there was, I've seen, like, interviews, but I can't, back it up with facts. I'm not trying to back this up with facts, I'm just sort of what, I've gathered, sort of in my head, that the X-Men, especially in the 60s, when they first came out, were sort of supposed to be, like, sort of a parallel to the civil rights era, sort of an oppressed minority being, the minority being oppressed by the government, and the government institutions trying to bring them down and control them, and all that nasty stuff that's actually happened to people of color in the history of the United States since its beginning. And meanwhile, all these characters, most of them are white characters. They're talking about the X-Men in the 60s right now. White men. And they're sort of, by giving them special powers, different, calling them mutants of the X genes, and Homo sapien superior, whatever the fuck it is, the fake name they put to a scientific name to mark them as a different species, apparently, which is really weird because apparently mutants can lose powers and gain powers, and it's like, that's just weird. It's not a different species. I sincerely doubt. Of course, I'm not biology major. I don't know enough about biology to really be talking about that shit. But it makes no sense to me, from my understanding. And even if it's a fantasy land, it makes no sense. And honestly, I'm off topic again. The Homo sapien superior or whatever, it sort of feels like shit people made up. It's a distinction that doesn't actually matter, really. Not yet, anyway. Maybe in a few hundred years we can say there's Homo sapiens and Homo sapien superior, but I don't know. I don't want to get into biology or X-Men. I'm probably all fucked up with it anyway. But, okay. Back to the whole, it's in the 60s, they have a bunch of white dudes, call them mutants, X-Men, give them suits and fancy powers, and then sort of use their storyline, kind of parallel it with the civil rights movement. And there are no black characters in that time period in Marvel, especially. And I don't know about DC, but especially not in Marvel. And then you're just, that's just so disgusting. because there's no black people in the characters, especially, and if there are, because there were at some point, but from what I could tell, there were caricatures of people of color, and then you start looking into the sort of the articles about what you would call it, articles about like the profiles about characters like again Moonstar and Forge and how they're being Native Americans and gimmick, and then trying to push that as, and the metaphor falls apart and falls like especially with the comics, it falls apart horribly because yeah, let's compare the civil rights movement and not include any people of color. Let's just sort of steal the movement and pervert it and change its meaning and strip it of what matters. And let's not tie back to it at all except for in interviews. It's bullshit. And then you get to True Blood, and they're I'm out of order all over again. But then we get to True Blood, and they're sort of I think it was Alan Ball has been interviewed and told that this was a metaphor for gay rights or struggle or whatever. But the difference is that the vampires as a whole, they're not the good guys. They keep on trying to push them as protagonists, but they're not. And it's, whatever, that they're protagonists, but they're sort of like glorifying what they do, and it's like these are not nice people, and they just keep on pushing it, and it's sort of, why do they do that? Why are they trying to get the struggles and sort of copy over them and strip them of their meaning and pervert them, and it's just, oh gosh, it's horrible. It's like, what are you doing? Why? What were you thinking? Obviously not, because it's like, come on, you're just being a dumbass. And, yeah, I guess I'll just leave it at that, because I really don't know what else to add, and I feel like I've gone on for like 6 minutes.